Okay, so here we are, folks, and your time is super valuable. So we're going to start to just breathe in and make this fun and a little bit of self care in and of itself, because we know your time is valuable. And we are talking about something that honors that concept that, we want to do good notes, but we also want them not to take away from the end of the day when we're supposed to be going home for self care. So first, I just, want to start off just saying, a little bit about myself. I'm a what consider just, display over all that alphabet soup there. I'm a trauma therapist for 17 years, and I've been doing collaborative note taking for about 8 years. That's my stance there. There's some bullet points on, how I'm trained. I definitely embed a collaborative care philosophy into everything that I do, even how I operate outside of session with my colleagues, with my community, regarding mental health. So it does help to, kind of have that philosophy. Just to sell you a little bit, I've kept my passion alive for 17 years, um, because of collaborative note taking. And when I moved from a hospital setting to a fee for service setting, my income increased 65%, with the help of collaborative note taking, because I can have, you know, honestly, I can have 12 sessions a day, but I can easily have 10 sessions a day. And when my last session ends, my notes are all done and I go home. So it enables me to have a 12:15 to 8 p.m. schedule, increase my capacity, which means increase my, caseload, but also avoid burnout and stay in my passion. Now, not everybody is going to meet that many patients, but it's really exhilarating knowing you can meet with more, and not reduce your effectiveness, your passion. Um, so I say take a deep breath. You're about to get your time back, reduce burnout, improve efficiency and income, smile, let's have fun. And that's just like a little funny meme there when you need self care, but still have to have notes to do. You bring your office to the beach. So we're going to avoid that today. So basically, I do want to just start with really plugging having a passion and a mindset, that this is something you really want to do, you believe in. Collaborative therapy philosophy is just not just a note taking method. It's client centered, it empowers the therapist and the client. You are talking in language that makes both of you the expert. And yes, it does function as a tool. It reduces the time spent on documentation that zaps the magic of the session. Collaborative documentation, it is clinician care, it's self-care, because it can also ensure if the session is landing the way you hope. So that's another thing that like leads to burnout. It's just that worry of, are you effective as a clinician? So I give you some things to consider. You know, it's a mutually inquiring conversation, so you work together with respect, honesty, empathy, and genuineness to share information with each other. Like, how is that landing with you? What I just said. I said that your mom has some tendencies that seem like maybe, have you heard of narcissism? How's that landing on you? I know that's kind of a scary word. And that really can be an invitation for them to be the expert as well, and then, work into, as we get into later on, saying something like, what we talked about, like maybe in your own words, you want to put something in your note about how your mom has kind of influenced how you show up in relationships. What do you think? Relational expertise. Therapist listens carefully and understands the client's experience, and through this is more effective. We're expert listeners, but they're an expert in their experience. So I love that the note taking, the collaborative note taking embraces that. It embraces not knowing. Um, and that's also kind of a burnout reliever. Like, I don't really know. You see it best from your perspective, does that look like alcoholism in your family? Does that look like a pattern? And then again, yeah, I really think it is. Well, later on when we check in, we should remember that for the note. Being authentic. It's such a relief to be on authentic and no invisible thoughts from the therapist anymore. Resistant client is resistant to treatment. No more of that, which can be scary at first, but I think is just so rewarding to the patient, or if you call them the client. It can be a freedom for both, and living with the uncertainty. Um, you know, Clinicians are not expected to have all the answers, and normalizing that, that you don't know all the answers, I don't know all the answers, but we can hold that in this space. We're on the journey together. It's mutually transforming. So therapy, when we talk about what we learned in the session, what we think is valuable, it really honors that. And then it orients towards real relational life. Like, we want our patients to be able to experience a relationship that they can transfer over and into real life. Okay, keep it moving. So, collaborative documentation explained. It's completing and sharing documentation in the presence of the client in a collaborative way. So it's not like, that you write the note while they're in the room, and they're not part of it. Um, this means somehow doing the documentation together, and there are various ways to do it. We'll explore that, but I'm kind of hoping that this PowerPoint presentation will give me some comments about how we can formulate another live linked in audio presentation, because really I want to be collaborative with you. What do you need to learn? You may have heard the term concurrent. However, this does not emphasize the collaborative nature. So I use an example here. What do you think is the most important thing from last session to follow up on today? That's a really cool feature of collaborative note taking, is that once you're doing it, you can use old notes to reference how you should start the next session. And I say that can be a question to start off the collaborative note session. So it's not just, you are having them sit down and they're getting, you know, they're putting their umbrella away, they're putting their coat up, and you're starting the note. That's concurrent note taking, not collaborative note taking. And this improves the connection and value. When we write notes in this way, the brain is triggered. I'm learning something valuable. I always say that to patients, even about journaling. When they go home, they should journal, because it really tells their brain, I've just learned something. Our brain's already wired for that because of our schooling. So in session, when we're writing together, it really nails in, like, we did something valuable here. Okay, so we're aligning on the most basic level. People come to therapy seeking something. Often it's a general sense of like wanting an answer to what's wrong. And clinicians may want to be that compass, giving them direction, but that's actually where burnout can start to grow, like us needing to have the answers. So, from the start, if we're saying, hey, I'm really collaborative, and we want to leave a few minutes at the end of session to see what we to collaboratively think is important, then we know we're coming up with things together, and maybe even getting away from what's wrong, but more like what happened, and let's organize what's happened to you in your life. It's a great opportunity in the beginning of meeting with a patient to open them up to collaborative note taking. But you can even do it if you've been with patients for a while. um, Saying like, you've really, been learning your own way in here. And we talk about journaling at home, and I write notes after you're gone. What do you say we do it more collaboratively? Um, this is the most exciting part. It's a permanent reference, accessible even after the relationship is no longer active, of the work they did and the work you watched them do or you were a container for. So it really becomes alive and less an obligation, and something that's invisible to them. In this way, the relationship is always with them, as are the lessons and the insights. So I say, keep in mind, it's likely you that detest note taking. Client experiences are overwhelmingly positive. Research backs that across settings, so hospital settings, outpatient programs, and like individual private practice, clients are reporting feeling more engaged and like they got more out of the session. So that resistance that we fear in clients is very, very rare and evaporates when they actually experience it. Research says both clients and therapists report positive experiences across sessions. So I think hopefully I'm selling you on this. I'm not selling anything, but here's just a few points. You're getting the note done in session, saves time. You're reducing your anxiety. You're seeing those piled up overdue notes starts to get the anxiety going, and your fear of forgetting important content grows as well. And even making mistakes, mixing patients up. Um, it increases productivity. Perhaps you limited the people you can see due to notes, and now you can increase your caseload. It also allows for check-ins with the clients and helps you, kind of know how you're doing minute to minute, session to session. You don't end up with someone not coming back and not knowing why. It's really you're pretty confident that you're both on the same page. It reduces the pressure of providing the right things. And like I said before, the pressure of dropouts and like you're not helping allegations, stuff like that. And it avoids using the no-show time and non-work hours to catch up. And overall, it's clinician self-care. For clients, or if you call them patients, it empowers them to be an equal expert. It reduces resistance if they're being told or influenced to come. It reduces the stigma, of like, I don't know if you know this, but a lot of patients worry that their therapist thinks they're crazy. So if they're seeing the notes and they're part of the notes, it reduces that, like, they're here to be fixed. Um, and I don't know what they think is wrong with me, but it's all in some invisible note. And it's not just a passive process where they just like, come, all right, what are you going to decide we talk about today, kind of a thing. And not only are clients more involved in their own therapy process and progress noting, but they can also feel a greater level of comfort in the setting. We don't often think about how hard it is, and not just the first session. It's hard to be in therapy. And so, if there's increased transparency, that every time they experience that, it's like a therapy in and of itself. And it helps decrease the power differentials, helps them know like it's shared decision making here. I'm not, writing something about you that's going to go to your med provider and there's some decision being made. Okay. Other things to consider, um, and I think I have a document on the other page that really shows you. Oh, here it is. Look down at this third bullet. Outcome data from SAMHSA states 6 to 8 hours saved for full-time employees or full-time therapists. 20% increase in capacity if you choose to. There's another slide where I talk about if you spend 10 minutes on notes and you start collaborative note taking, you will save 200 hours a year. Okay, so you guys can always, kind of review this slide. Yeah, here's that diagram or that screenshot here. If you do take 7.5 minutes on a note, that's 9,000 minutes a year, 150 hours. I mean, 150 hours a year, 3 hours per week you would save. So just think about that. If you think you're doing good and you only spend 5 minutes a note, you still, with collaborative note taking, save 2 hours per week. You could fit more clients in there, or you could start taking 1 hour lunches. Like, you could pick up a kid at school and drive them home, make them a snack, and then come back to work. So I think it's really valuable. Again, we didn't get to do the LinkedIn audio like I had envisioned. I wanted to have some audience participation. So hopefully, maybe viewing this now will encourage you to pop me a note and see if we want to reschedule that. Um, but some concerns that I could think of is, needing time to think before you can write a note, and I'm gonna have to like think in front of the patient. Um, but that is so human. And you can actually put your finger on your chin and go, it's so hard to think about like everything that we covered, like what's the most important. And you can allow that very human pause and silence that people need. Um, the concerns that there will be resistance, like great, love the resistance. Like, you know, let's talk about that. That's very real and human too. Like I had resistance to even bringing up concurrent note taking or learning concurrent note taking. So I'm pretty sure I can shut down all of your concerns, bring them on. Um, it does require a shift in thinking, though. You want to believe that collaborative care is an essential element of the therapeutic process. You needs to be described as highly valuable to the participant. You want to be as excited as I am, because and believing that it's good for the patient. Um, and you do need to be comfortable changing what's written if um, the patient or the client, if you call them that, isn't comfortable with the language. If you said, yeah, so I saw a little resistance to talking about your trauma, I'd like to put that in your note. And they're like, I don't like that word resistance. You'd say, yeah, you're right. Like, I guess, I wasn't thinking that that could be like a kind of a negative, it does seem like a negative word. I didn't think of that. So you have to be, kind of prepared, and you can agree to disagree. You can say, do you mind if I say in your note, like, and my thoughts were a little different than Sandra's. I was feeling like, it was a highly triggering situation. And she felt like it was maybe like a 3 on a scale from 0 to 7. That's totally, that's wonderful. You have to have that differing viewpoint, and it can be referenced later. Like, do you remember that session where we disagreed? Like, do you think this person in your life is like that too, or they think, it's a really sensitive matter and you kind of downplay it? So it can all be circled back to something relatable. And don't abandon your interaction style. Just incorporate more collaboration. So if you're a CBT person, just like, hey, so that felt like it was more coming from thoughts and then led to feelings. What do you think about that? But I'm a very somatic based person, so I might say, do you think that you felt that in your throat because your hand just went to your throat? And should we put that in the note? That you felt like you were actually choked up, even though you didn't say you were choked up. So you can still honor your style. You do have to commit to this for at least 6 consecutive weeks. And I would say 4 sessions a day, to get to know this. If you want to jump right in and do them all, go for it. I think, it's wonderful. If you feel less comfortable, like you might want to take a breather and you have 8 sessions a day and you want to do 4 every other, just because you know that about yourself. You want comfort after taking a risk. So here we go. We need to be mindful about how we ask people to be involved in the collaborative documentation. Here's a few suggestions. You explain to the client or the patient that you want to provide the best care possible. Given this, you want to make sure that you're clear about what the client thinks, feels, and experiences during the therapeutic session. To best do this, you want to spend the last few minutes of each session going over the highlights together. And you can get more detailed. Like if you're starting with new patients, you can be very detailed. If you're trying to incorporate this with patients you're already seeing, maybe you've like even selected some that you feel like you just have great therapeutic rapport and they'll already love this because they love everything you guys do. Um, some of these scripts can be, used right away. You might want to flesh them out a little bit more if you're kind of developing like your spiel for new patients. Um, so I say also share with the client that therapy works best when the client is engaged. Collaborating on the notes that you take will help ensure that you and the individual are on the same page, so to speak, as to what's working and what's not working. And you guys can take a moment as I be relational and just take a breather here from talking, and you can read the rest of those there. Sometimes that's what we need to do. Whew. It's amazing how much you can get wrapped up and lose your center. Okay. So hopefully you guys have read over some of the ways you can start, and I end there with be patient that over time it is more than likely this will strengthen both the therapeutic alliance between the client and the counselor, as well as help the client move through therapy with more success. Totally be patient. Um, Stumbling is fine. So in practice, allow the individual to ask questions through this. They may not have, they're going to see their patient chart. They're going to see their electronic medical record for the first time. So you could just be like, you know what, let's open it up and see what this looks like, and I've been writing notes, because especially if it's not a new patient, you could say, yeah, I've been writing notes without you. Look, you could even really crack a joke and say, like, look how boring they are. Look how bad I did. um, of course, my notes are not like that. I'm just kidding. But you can really kind of say, yeah, like we, you, there's all these numbers in front, and that's really what your insurance company sees. I don't even know if they see the name for the diagnosis sometimes. Um, it's a great opportunity to help them consider what it can be for them. Validation, an accomplishment, a container for the work they did. So as you open that electronic medical record, um, it's just an opportunity even for psychoeducation. So when you think about you never done this before in therapy, can you like realize that like we're almost putting therapy in a classroom and a journal um, all together. You know, too bad that um, we never thought of this before, but we're thinking of it now, kind of a thing, and just like excite them that you're on a journey together. And it allows for clarification of what they said at an early point. So if you're opening the note and it's like you do remember something, but you weren't actually clear, it allows for the clinician to say something like that. I give an example. You said your depression had worsened when you could not get out of bed. Is that right? Or was it something else that told you that? So we can be accurate in the note. Okay, this is the setup. Be sure to believe and make it yours. With telehealth, I encourage screen sharing in the office. Like I said, you can ask their preference if they want to just relax, sit back, and like talk into the air, or they can sidle up next to you. The script of the new patient can be embedded into the intake, so you can start then. I don't know, in intakes, I usually am there, and their patients are usually used to this that you're typing in the session because you're collecting a lot of information. So you can say like it won't be like this, but it's not too dissimilar. I'm typing information as we go, and I'm asking you to stop me if you feel like you you aren't sure what I'm typing. That also too could be another LinkedIn audio call, how to do concurrent intakes, because I'm just as I'm just speaking now, I'm realizing I do concurrent intakes. I'm not sure if everybody does. So that could be another interesting thing. If you want to just make sure all your intakes start to be collaborative, that definitely cuts down time too. Because intakes are usually about an hour long, and if you're doing an hour of writing after that, that's a lot. I say consider making a script for yourself. The starting statement should be something you believe is true. For example, I feel the most effective sessions are when we are like equals. You're the expert on you, and I am the expert listener. And I give you a few other options there, which again, I'm going to allow you to read so I get to breathe. Breath is good. Yeah, make the script your own. That's really important. Script elements can include this is your record, this is your care. We want to make each visit the quality you want. I want to accurately state what you're saying. I want to indicate what you're getting, not what I think you're getting. Your opinions and feedback are important to the goals that we establish. We will only take notes during the last few minutes unless you direct or agree different. So these are can be elements of your script. So this is a true story. I've been working out Life Stands for 4 years now, and I've had the opportunity of kind of like graduating patients that have been with me for a while. And now, then, since they all this whole time, all the 4 years, and some patients I've had for 4 years, actually some for like 6 or 7 because they follow me. Um, they know like collaborative note taking is something they're doing this whole time, and they know that I believe in it and that I want them to like, even request it after a session. I could copy and paste it into an email, but definitely when they leave, this is here for them if they ever want to take it. Recently, um, I would say just this last year, 3 patients are getting married, and they each independently requested their records, all 3 of them stating that they wanted to remember the work they had done, and they felt that it was key in them finding a lasting and healthy relationship. One patient even said to me, "I don't even know that I need to read it. Like, I just wanna have it." Um, I think they were doing something like a wedding chest or something like that, and they wanted to put it in their wedding chest, like, the work they did to get to their partner. I was just like, "Whoa, this is crazy." So I want to get you excited with that real story. This is the real impact of collaborative care, and collaborative note taking is part of that. Through note taking, individuals feel ownership of what they've accomplished, and they want to hang on to that progress in ways that speak to the accountability they now take in their well being. So how does this actually work though? And again, I really wished we had the LinkedIn audio session because I wanted to be collaborative with you, and I wanted you to like, tell me your clients, let's do a case example, tell me the other challenges you see with how to make it applicable and like coach you through it. I know that's something that I'm trying to inspire here at Lifestand, so we are going to roll that out. But I'm just so passionate for this that I would even be willing to do it. If you hit me up and you want to request another live audio or just like in one-on-one live audio, and I can coach you on concurrent note taking. I'm not asking for money. I'm just asking for you to feel free as a clinician to this wonderful concept and particularly this skill. Thank you so much. And I just hope to hear from you soon.